Taiwan defends its right to carry out live drills around the island of Taiping after a complaint from the Philippines. NATO leaders voiced their concerns over the threat posed by China to the world order. Why Taiwan's new plan to cut back on single-use cups isn't being welcomed by everyone. And how a beach cleanup turned into a passion for all things ocean for one Taiwanese woman. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Taiwan has asserted its right to conduct live fire drills on Taiping Island in the South China Sea. That's despite protests from the Philippines, which also claims it. Manila called the drills on Tuesday and Wednesday an illegal activity that raised tensions in the region. But Taiwan's foreign ministry said that as part of the country's territory, it has the right to conduct routine exercises on Taiping and in the surrounding waters. Taiping, also known as Ituapa, is administered by Taiwan, but it is also claimed by China, Vietnam, and the Philippines, where it is known as Legal Island.
我国有权在太平岛以及相关海域进行例行性操演。为了保障海上交通以及临近海域作业的渔船安全，我方在每次实弹射击演练前，都会事先通知相关区域的国家。我国秉持搁置争议、共同开发的基本原则，愿意在平等协商的基础上，参与南海相关协商机制。 并且与相关国家共同维护以及促进南海区域的和平与稳定。
To learn more about the dispute over Taiping Island, TaiwanPlus reporter Bongbong spoke with Chen, a research fellow at the Institute for National Defense and Security Research.
Can you talk about the history of disputes between Taiwan and the Philippines on Taiping Island?
Taiwan or the ROC government took over the island after the end of World War II in 1945. Since then, it has been the territories of Taiwan or Republic of China. Until recently, I think that's about 2009, the Philippines tried to argue that actually Taiping is also territory of the Philippines. At that time, President Chen went to visit Taiping, and it was the first time for the ROC presidents to visit the island. And 1 year after, that's 2009, the Philippines argued that that visit was illegal, and the Philippines proclaims Taiping was the territory of the Philippines.
Taiping is being claimed by a lot of different countries: China, Vietnam, Philippines. How did Taiwan come to administer the island?
Taiwan has its previously has its military on the island, and until 2010, I think Taiwan has its Coast Guard personnel on the islands, and definitely Taiwan also put some infrastructure and living support to people on the island.
Why is this island so important for the countries that are trying to claim it? Is it for natural resources or is it for military reasons?
I think the island is both military and the natural resources, and perhaps also political reason for countries surrounding Taiping Island or in the South China Sea area to argue that the Taiping is their territory. Well, geographically, you can see Taiping is in the middle of the South China Sea. So it goes without saying that, strategically and geopolitically, Taiping is very, very important to the countries. And second one is that taking the islands, that means that, the country can use the island to expand its exclusive economic zone, covering natural resources, surface or underwater. And definitely politically, that's kind of very strong signal or symbolic for the countries to show its territory stretching outside in, kind of big area of the South China Sea.
Taiwan's military is also carrying out exercises in the south of the country. On Thursday morning, Apache attack helicopters and helicopters that can carry troops and supplies took to the skies. They simulated air-to-air shooting at a Jiupeng military base in Pingdong County. Anti-submarine helicopters also took part in drills offshore. Next week, the base will host live ammunition exercises when various missiles are expected to be launched. These are part of annual tests of Taiwan-made weapons systems. China is claiming that 2 more batches of grouper fish imported from Taiwan contained banned chemicals. Beijing has banned all imports of the fish from Taiwan since June 13th over alleged banned chemicals. Taiwan has denounced those claims and says it is unacceptable for China to make accusations without scientific evidence.
我们在第一时间把科学根据透过两岸的动植物检疫平台给他们的海关总署。我们很讶异的是，国台办为什么不问自己的海关总署，而是用这样的一个对媒体再次的用不实的来指控？那我想这一个农委会是完全无法接受。
NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg says that China is not an adversary, but that Beijing does represent a serious challenge to the alliance. Stoltenberg made comments on a penultimate day of NATO Summit in Madrid. For the first time, the alliance agreed to include threats posed by Beijing into a blueprint guiding its future strategy.
China is substantially building up its military forces, including nuclear weapons, bullying its neighbors and threatening Taiwan. Investing heavily in critical infrastructure, including in allied countries. Monitoring and controlling its own citizens through advanced technology. And spreading Russian lies and disinformation.
To find out more about NATO's position on China, our reporter James Chater spoke to Yan Zhensheng, a professor of international relations at Taipei's National Zhengzhi University.
The NATO Secretary General said the group doesn't regard China as an adversary, but at the same time, the summit declaration says China is seeking to undermine the international order that NATO wants to protect. Where does NATO stand on China now?
After 2019, I think NATO started to pay attention to China and the potential threat of China against the rule-based international order. And what we see, especially after the Ukraine war, that China became a potential Russia in disrupting the international order. So this is where I think NATO has come up with the idea that they have to develop a common policy towards China.
China has said any NATO expansion in Asia will stir up conflict in the region. What steps could China take to undermine NATO's new strategy?
I think the most important thing is China has to convince NATO, United States, or the international community that China will not stand on the side of Russia, because that was part of the aggression. And then China will not use force in the East Asian area, maybe except when Taiwan declared independence. So this is one area. I think even the United States will agree that Taiwan should not unilaterally change the status quo. So if China can be committed to that kind of principle, I think it will lessen the uneasiness of NATO.
Can we really expect a greater NATO military or diplomatic presence in Asia going forward? And what would that presence look like?
If you look at NATO, the European countries, I don't think they will be heavily involved in East Asia. Maybe, joining some kind of military exercises. But in terms of real substantial support, of course, the United States will always play a vital role. But other countries probably will be more symbolically involved instead of substantially involved. So that might be the difference. But they will support the potential partners in Japan or Korea. So that's, I think, the worry China might have.
China's President Xi Jinping is due to arrive in Hong Kong on Thursday ahead of celebrations on Friday to mark 25 years since the former British colony returned to Chinese rule. Xi is expected to spend 2 days in the city, but will stay overnight across the border in Shenzhen. Preparations for the visit have been marked by high security and secrecy. Streets around the convention and exhibition center, where the handover ceremony was held in 1997, have all been blocked off. Around 13 journalists from local and international news outlets have been banned from covering the visit on national security grounds. Xi is expected to swear in the territory's new leader, former Security Chief John Lee. A study by a think tank in the U.S. has found that negative views of China remain at or near historic highs in several countries, including the United States, Japan, and South Korea. The Pew Research Center surveyed 19 countries and found the unfavorable views related mostly to China's human rights policies and, to a lesser extent, its military power, economic competition, and China's involvement in the politics in each country. A high percentage of people said they have little or no confidence in Chinese President Xi Jinping to do the right thing regarding world affairs. The figure came in at 75% or more in 11 of the 19 countries. The study says negative views of China shot up in 2020 during the pandemic. U.S. President Joe Biden has announced that the U.S. will increase its military presence in Europe in response to the threat created by Russia.
Today I'm announcing the United States will enhance our force posture in Europe and respond to the changed security environment, as well as strengthening our collective security. Earlier this year, we surged 20,000 additional U.S. forces to Europe to bolster our alliance in response to Russia's aggressive move, bringing our force total in Europe to 100,000. We're going to continue to adjust our posture based on the threat in close consultation with our allies.
Biden made the announcement at the NATO Summit in Spain. The plan includes setting up a permanent army headquarters in Poland and sending 2 squadrons of F-35 fighters to the UK. The U.S. will also boost its presence in Romania, the Baltic region, Spain, Germany, and Italy. Despite a Russian attack on a shopping mall in central Ukraine on Wednesday, Moscow continues to deny it targets civilians. From the start of the war in Ukraine, Moscow has repeatedly denied an invasion, calling it a special military operation to denazify Ukraine and liberate the people. Denisa Hilbertova is a historian at Masaryk University in the Czech Republic, researching Cold War disinformation about Taiwan or the Republic of China. Reporter Inka Vat spoke with her from the 4th World Congress, the largest conference on Taiwan studies, which is underway in Seattle.
The continual repetition of the fact that this is not a war, is not an invasion, but it's a special military operation to denazify Ukraine. How does this example compare with what you've been studying in the Cold War?
By constantly repeating a certain type of information, slowly people will start to accept that information as factually correct. Sometimes it might take very long time, decades, even centuries, and sometimes it can be done very quickly. Especially are the factors that can speed up this propaganda machine is attaching propaganda to already known terms like Nazism. And therefore, if you take a well-known term with very negative connotations and apply it to present days, a lot of people will just accept it and will not look very deeply into it, and therefore they will more quickly adopt the narrative the Russian propaganda is trying to sell them.
You are studying during the Cold War propaganda that was spread in the Czech Republic, and I understand that there are many older Czechs who have a great knowledge about the Republic of China. which is essentially Taiwan. Could you tell us why?
In the late 40s and the beginning of 50s, as in the 40s there was still a civil war between the communists and Kuomintang, and after 1949, when Chiang Kai-shek and around 2 million Kuomintang soldiers and supporters fled to Taiwan, it was a perfect event and a historical turning point for the communist propaganda around the world to show that the communists are going to win.
And so this propaganda that was being targeted at Czechs, you said, was essentially to show them put them up as an example, to put up Chiang Kai-shek and the ROC as an example that failed. Is that correct?
Yeah, this propaganda definitely failed. Actually, through the decades, it resulted into something completely else, in something unwanted. So what it resulted into was that the dissidents, because obviously they were also aware of this huge amount of propaganda regarding Chiang Kai-shek and Kuomintang, they started to look at Taiwanese case. And in the 1970s, when Taiwan was experiencing its economical miracle, and in the 1980s, when there was the start of the democratization process, the dissidents were looking to Taiwan for guidance. They were considering Taiwanese case as one of the possible ways for the Czechoslovak Communist Party to go forward. The older generation knows about Taiwan is through this huge amount of propaganda that originally targeted Chiang Kai-shek, Kuomintang, and Taiwan as something to show humanism will win all over the world.
Taiwan is encouraging people to cut back on single-use cups. Starting Friday, it's requiring shops to give a discount to customers who bring their own cups. As John Van Trieste reports, the new rule may help the environment, but not all shop owners are happy about it.
From July 1st, buying drinks will cost less for consumers in Taiwan if they bring their own cups. Other than breakfast shops and street market stalls, shops will have to give customers with their own containers at least a 5 NT dollar discount. That's about 17 cents US.
比较好，减少一些一次性的使用的材质，那不要制造垃圾。
块钱这样省下来，好像没有我杯子的价钱啊。
Drink shops that sell bubble tea, juice, and coffee are a part of Taiwanese culture, and Taiwan goes through 4 billion disposable cups a year. That's around 170 cups per person that end up in a landfill. The government tried to curb this waste in 2011 with a similar program that offered discounts of up to 3 NT dollars, or 10 US cents. But only 6% of customers took advantage of the discount and brought their own cups. Some shops are already giving discounts on their own initiative, hoping to attract eco-conscious customers.
其实我们在5月以前是折3块，在5月之后呢，我们就率先可以折5块。那每一个礼拜大概会有1到2位的民众带环保杯来买饮料。
But shop owners who haven't been offering discounts say mandating one will hurt their bottom line.
原来说听起来很少，其实它是在饮料的成本里面是算相对高的部分。一杯30块饮料5块钱就等于占了将近20%。
Some shop owners are planning to recoup losses with special deals to boost sales, like giving frequent customers free reusable cups. But while they may find ways to adapt to the new rule, they feel the government is moving too fast and too hard. Asnaya Zhou and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Coming up, a Taiwanese Lego set gets a big thumbs up from fans. Details after the break.
I'm Ken Ning for TaiwanPlus News. For more great stories from here in Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
A court in the Philippines has once again ordered the shutdown of news site Rappler, but its founder Maria Ressa, who won the Nobel Peace Prize for her work as journalist, says she's fighting back.
Our goal is to continue holding the line. You've heard me say that forever. We're not going to voluntarily give up our rights, and we really shouldn't. I've continued to appeal for that because when you give up your rights, you're never going to get them back.
Philippine authorities say Rappler's funding model is unconstitutional, but the news organization says its funding from an investor in the U.S. does not break the law. Rappler is one of the few media outlets that's critical of the country's outgoing president, Rodrigo Duterte. Ferdinand Marcos Jr., better known as Bongbong, has taken his oath as the 17th president of the Philippines. The new president won a landslide victory last month, receiving more than double the votes of his main rival. That's despite his family's history of corruption. Bongbong is the only son of the country's late dictator, Ferdinand Marcos, who was in power from 1966 to 1986 when he was overthrown by a peaceful people's revolt. He will serve a 6-year term with his predecessor's daughter, Sara Duterte Carpio, as his vice president. Hundreds of people have protested outside the UN Ocean Conference in Portugal against deep ocean mining. Chanting "Keep it in the ground," the protesters call on leaders to ban the practice. Deep-sea mining involves huge machines that suck up rocks that contain cobalt, manganese, and other rare metals from the ocean floor. More than 7,000 experts and officials from the countries around the world are in Lisbon to discuss a UN directive to protect marine life. As an island nation, Taiwan relies on the ocean for its survival. But years of development have left many of the country's coastlines covered in trash. But one woman has made it her mission to clean the beaches and restore the relationship between the Taiwanese people and the sea.
She left her media job and became a full-time mom when her children...
The premier badminton event in Taiwan's capital is getting a name change from the Chinese Taipei Open to the Taipei Open.
Hello, 大家好，我是戴资颖。
Taiwanese stars, including current world number 2 Dai Ziying, Zhou Tiancheng, and Olympic gold medal winning doubles pair Wang Qiling and Li Yang, will be among the over 300 athletes competing when the renamed competition begins on July 19th. It will be the first time it's been held since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. The capital's deputy mayor Vivian Huang says she hopes the rebranded event will make it more connected to the people of Taipei. For the first time ever, a Lego set designed by a Taiwanese fan is hitting store shelves. The Jazz Quartet set was created by Qi Xingwei. The design garnered over 10,000 votes on the Lego Ideas webpage, enough for it to enter mass production. Qi's set will first go on sale in Taipei in July. Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Betty Chen. Finally today, we'll leave you with images of injured sea turtle being released in Dubai after completing their treatment. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.